David Liddel. I was in 1981, I was 16. At the time, we would have met in a pub at a time, and if you weren't there, you couldn't get a phone call because we never had mobiles, we never had Facebook, we never had anything. So the pubs was brilliant, and they were really busy and they were heaving. Right, just what was in my school, or maybe it's younger or older, and you'd go out with anybody, and the pub was just brim full. Everybody knew everybody in Alnwick. I cannot remember seeing somebody who you didn't know, and you always got on with them. There was maybe 20 friends, and we'd all meet in these pubs, and it was great. I just loved the pubs, aye, and that's why we're gonna go back to the 80's, because we cannot. The films would have been all heavy action, and that's what I was into. And likes of Rambo and First Blood and things like that. I think them were out in the 80's. The Jam, Madness, Sham 69. You wouldn't have heard of them, would you? The Ruts. And we used to dance, and it was just like swinging our arms and that, and it was good. I'm a Sunderland fan, and I went to Newcastle matches every away game, nearly every away game, and what we wanted to do was just fight and drink. So that was class. My football violence, you'd get some people coming, come on. Then you just punch them. And I was quick. We had long hair, much longer. And I got mine short because someone would just pull it down when we're fighting. So I had mine like a skinhead. I had Oxford bags, and they were wide. They were about that wide. And we had Docs on, which is Dr. Martens, them boots. Alnwick Fair was brilliant. And we did the Saddam race on the Sunday, and we'd had to... where did we finish it? We finished it at the White Swan Hotel, and everybody dressed up, and everybody dressed up in their costumes, or for the costumes. Well, my dad was quite posh, and he was the pit manager, and that's why I got the job, I think, without getting an interview or something like that. And but the work was good, and the house, what was the question was, the house was Erky Box, which is fairly posh, and it was good then. I was carrying timber and girders in for supplies when I first started. Then we worked on the screens when I very first started. then, because I only had 6 years at the pit, and I went to Ellerton Colliery, which was massive, and there was 2,000 workers there, and was very first started at Ashton doing your training. And Ashton was a good pit. It wasn't as big as Ellerton, but it was massive, Ellerton. Well, there was no toilets. And if you had to have a poo, you'd have to put it under a rock in an out-by condition, or out-by roadway. Out-by is the air flow. In-by, go to the face, then out-by, going back. You put the prop up, and the props was only that high, and it's a 2'6" seam. And it's like a slice of ham. And it was just 2'6". And 2'6" is well under 3 foot. 36 inches. That's 3 foot. And it was smaller. And what I had to do was shovel 20 ton over 10 yards and 6 foot in. And there was a man next year, and a man next year, and a man next year. And there was maybe 10 shovelers. I've carried a man out dead. So that's the worst one. And the bloke got, it blew up in his face, the explosives, what they fire them. And that was super bad, because his face was in a right mess. But he didn't, he lived, and he come back to the pit. So that wasn't, but I've carried a man dead out. I think there was a little conveyor belt, and it pushed this steel bar through his head, and he was dead, straight dead. And it wasn't good, like, because everybody was quiet, nobody spoke out, because you had to have a stretcher, and it was about 3 miles to the from the face to out of the pit. And you got tankies, which is a locomotive on the rails, which would pick you up, and we had to put them in to the we'd had to put him into the cabins. He's probably about 30. He's younger than me. You're lying on 2'6". 2'6" was the height, and you had to shovel 20 ton a day, and you only had a shovel in a axe, and the axe was to split the big bits of coal up, because after they fired it just set, and you had to break in and shovel it, and it was super hard. Very, very hard, that. It's and the next shift would come in, and they'd bring the face forward, and they'd bump it. Bump it meant build the chocks and they let the roof down, and we had to put 10 yards doughty props. We had mechanised doughty props. They were very mechanised, and we'd had to put the steel bars or timber on, and they were corrugated in the steel sheets. And this was modern for us, because we used to just use timber, and we got to chop the props out. There was a tannoid system, and you'd press it in, and I could speak exactly the same as my dad, because he's from Durham, and he's called a mack and tack. I'll mack you do that, and you can tack it over there. And I used to copy him loads, and I used to phone people up on the phone, and you just wind them up, these phones, to get the charge, or then you ring the number. And I used to say, "Aye, what's going on? What's immediate water level?" And he'll say, "Our father would, he'll come and speak about everything at the pit." I tricked them. I used to trick them. And they couldn't tell the difference from a mack and tack, because I was born in Durham, and I moved to Alnwick when I was about 9. Whittle was joined to Shillbottle, and Shillbottle was lovely and dry, and Whittle was wet, and the water used to drip down there, because you'd need oil skins on, and they weren't great, like, not these days what they have, Gore-Tex and all sorts and that now. You just have the plastic coat on, and it's just plastic, and it wasn't great, like. Or the water, sometimes you had to, the water was just coming down, and you were working in it all day, just shoveling, and it's 2'6" high, and you had to get 20 ton shoveled, and 20 ton is on a massive lorry, an 8-wheeler, but you had to support the roof as well, and you'd just break in, and because you used your aches, then you put a steel prop in, or a doughty, and that would pump it up just to that high, and you do 10 yards down the face, and 10 yards is nearly 9 metres, or 9.5 metres. I helped everybody. I just shoveled them off, and because you'd gone to the next man, then the next man, then the next man, who was ever struggling. I've never had a pit pony, like, but I did at Ellerton a couple of times when you're just salvaging things out of other gateways. They only used them at certain times when not on main roads and that. And Ellerton was massive, like, it had 2,000 workers, and it had pit ponies. Our father used to fine us, and it was about 20 quid, and there was a massive pay deduction, 20 quid in 1980, and he would charge us 20 quid for driving up this face belt, or the drift belt, and you couldn't, and there was chains on at times as well, and you'd jump on, and it was going super fast, and it was 3 in 1, because you could have waited for the tanky to come up, but we smoked, and we like a fag, so we'd get the drift belt straight up, and you jump off at the top. Everybody nipped their fingers on this on the drift belt, and they would burst. I never. I was lucky. Got fined 20 quid at that time, and it was off my dad. I went back to Whittle 4 years after the miners' strike, and I went back to Whittle as a consortium mine, which was a group of people had started it, and my dad was the manager. And I went back to that job after I took my redundancy from Ellerton. And Ellerton was good redundancy. I got £5,000 at the time for 5 years or 6 years, because I was only down the pit 6 years, and it was with the coal board, for the coal board. But the private mine was Whittle. That was something like. It was hard work, super hard work. I took a pub on in Alnwick, and it was at the Bird and Bush, and I was very successful because all the miners come, and they all had plenty of redundancy at the time and that, so I was prospering from every effort. I was so young. I think I was about 18 when we went on strike, and I wasn't bothered. I'll tell you what it is. I just couldn't care less about anything, you know. Or you could wish things or not wish things. Well, I went to lots of pickets, but I was a scab, because a scab is somebody who went back to work, and after 9 months we had I just had to go back to work, and on the first day in the battle bus, and it had cages on, it had metal sheets, it had everything, and we got into there in 9 months, and we got to the pit, and he put the bricks through the window, because there were pickets, the pickets. There was thousands and thousands of pickets there, because they knew we were going to come in, and they would come from Newcastle and Durham and everywhere, and they just put the stones through the window, and the glass was just shattering on back again. I didn't even know why I come back to work, because I loved the beef and everything, and the crack and everything, and I was having a great time. I don't know why I come back to work. I cannot believe it. And I just thought I was just a hard man, and I'll have to get on that bus the first day. Everybody knew who come in, because they were saying that they were going to come back, they were going to break the strike. And I think we did it. Mind, the whole of Nottingham was working at the time. So the massive strikes was ours, because everybody from Durham come back to Whittle, or they come to Whittle to stop us getting in that bus. The strike was super harsh. But I had the best fun of my life because we're on the drink every day and everything, and you know, as you do, as you would, and we didn't go to work, and we never had any debt. I mean, I had my car at the time. My car wasn't insured, but we still drove it, you know. So, well, Maggie Thatcher, I didn't like her. And that's, most pitmen didn't like her because she wanted to shut every pit. And they maybe should have shut them, but I don't know. And if they're making money, and she wanted to close everything, so Arthur Scargill, I don't know. We weren't bothered, but he was a top union rep in the mine workers scheme, and I don't know. He's probably done right to stop people coming to work, and he had to fight Maggie Thatcher.